Hey everyone, welcome to What Was That? I'm Gabe Sanchez. This year marked the 22nd anniversary of the September 11th attacks, and the Republican Party has continued to weaponize that tragic day to spin their lies into fake support. I want to show you how little they care about the day they say to never forget, especially when it comes to Donald Trump.
We will say a prayer for each of the beautiful families they left behind, whose pain is beyond comprehension. What they've gone through is not even believable. We honor the firefighters, the great New York PD, police department. What great people they are. They are so great.
When it comes to commemorating 9/11, Republicans know how to do it best. And by best, I actually mean the worst. What Republicans don't realize is that their coverage and moronic talking points actually highlights how terrible they truly are. For example, instead of remembering those we lost and standing united like we did in the days that followed September 11, 2001, Fox News found an excuse to criticize President Biden, but per usual, it was a giant rake step. Specifically, they went after President Biden for joining members of the U.S. military and their families at a ceremony on a military base in Anchorage, Alaska.
We begin with the day that changed America forever. It's been 22 years since the terrorists attacked our nation on 9/11, but our commander-in-chief will be thousands of miles away from any of those sites. Memorials were held at Ground Zero in Lower Manhattan today, as they have been every year since that fateful day, and at the Pentagon, where the terrorists crashed American Airlines Flight 77. And a moving ceremony was held at the Flight 93 National Memorial in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where brave souls aboard the plane that day, no doubt, saved countless other lives on the ground. President Biden, however, is breaking with any tradition. Not at an attack site, not at the White House. He's going to commemorate the 9/11 attacks at a military base in Alaska.
The reason that President Biden was in Anchorage, Alaska was so that Air Force One could refuel after traveling back from Hanoi, Vietnam, his final stop on a whirlwind trip to Asia to meet Vietnamese leaders after attending the G20 summit in New Delhi. Biden went to Vietnam to secure deals on semiconductors and minerals. You know, the thing you would expect a president to do instead of forcing tariffs on other countries that have harmful effects on our U.S. economy. And considering how much Republicans dislike China, you'd think they would support something that would remove any sort of dependence on them, but of course, nothing will ever satisfy Republicans. And according to Peter Doocy, Biden was working in Hanoi all through the night.
He has been basically working all through the night, at the equivalent of an all-nighter Eastern time. So he's probably pretty tired, pretty jet-lagged. But
that extended pause button was the exact moment that Peter Doocy realized that he single-handedly just demolished Fox News' lazy attack on sleepy Joe Biden's age. I can only imagine Peter Doocy's producer freaking out in his ear.
He has been basically working all through the night, at the equivalent of an all-nighter Eastern time.
Why is Doocy complimenting Biden?
So he's probably pretty tired.
Is anyone else hearing this right now?
Pretty jet-lagged.
Doocy, what are you doing?
But
Doocy, stop talking. Doocy, stop talking right now. Peter, can you hear me right now? Because I swear, if you don't stop talking, I'm gonna get your dad on the phone. He's gonna fly to Hanoi, and then he's gonna show you how to do your job, because clearly, you don't know what you're doing. Peter Doocy. So if Fox News and other Republicans are actually concerned about age and mental health, they might want to look at their own fascist, Donald Trump. But who am I kidding? It's Fox News we're talking about. We know they won't because they don't actually care, just like they don't actually care about the 9/11 families.
Pete Hegseth, I know it's not about them, and it's about the families. And it's about those who remember that day, particularly changing America in their hearts. So it's not about Biden. However,
it's clearly about the families and not about Biden. However, they're going to find any excuse to blame Biden just so they can talk about him.
Obsessed much.
Seriously, they really want everyone to know that it's about the families.
It's not about Biden. It's about the families.
Well, if that were true, then why in 2022 did 30 Republicans vote against the Fairness for 9/11 Families Act that provided compensation and relief to the victims of 9/11 and their surviving family members, including widows and dependent children? Whatever happened to Republicans wanting to save the children? Oh, right, it's in the trash along with their fake claims of being pro-life, backing the blue, and supporting our troops and first responders. And the very same Republicans who voted no then tried to hoodwink everyone this year by tweeting 9/11 memorial posts, like cringy wannabe Mission Impossible cosplayer Dan Crenshaw, or gun fetish family man Thomas Massey, or even like Beetlejuice musical adulterer Lauren Boebert. And let's not forget how in 2019, Republicans fought to not pass the Never Forget the Heroes Act, which reauthorizes the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund until 2090. They were so unwilling to do their job that comedian Jon Stewart had to publicly shame Congress to get it done.
As I sit here today, I can't help but think what an incredible metaphor this room is for the entire process that getting health care and benefits for 9/11 first responders has come to. Behind me, a filled room of 9/11 first responders, and in front of me, a nearly empty Congress. Sick and dying, they brought themselves down here to speak to no one. It's shameful. It's an embarrassment to the country, and it is a stain on this institution. And you should be ashamed of yourselves for those that aren't here, but you won't be. Because accountability doesn't appear to be something that occurs in this chamber.
So when Republicans say that 9/11 is about the victims' families, survivors, and first responders, the only way to respond to them is by saying,
"Go f*** yourselves."
And now that we've got that covered, let's see what else Fox News had to say.
As you know, we had Peter Doocy on Fox and Friends both on Sunday and Monday reporting from Vietnam. And he said, some White House officials off the record basically said, well, we weren't at Pearl Harbor 22 years after December 11th, 1941.
Wait, did Hegseth just say December 11th, 1941?
Pearl Harbor 22 years after December 11th, 1941.
You know, for a group that loves to brag about being history buffs, Republicans sure get historical dates wrong a lot. The attack on Pearl Harbor happened on December 7th, 1941. December 11th, 1941 was when Hitler declared war on America. You know, for a guy that went to Princeton and Harvard, Hegseth is an absolute idiot.
So at what point does this sort of, it was implied, Peter didn't say this, but at what point do we kind of move on?
Off the record, basically said, implied, yeah, I'm gonna go with
Never happened!
Never happened!
Fox News is desperately trying to find any way to attack Biden since Republicans don't have a shred of evidence proving that he committed crimes, which apparently isn't required to open an impeachment inquiry into Biden. Republicans really seem to be taking the Rudy Giuliani approach of lots of theories, but no actual proof. Turns out all you really need is Trump secretly orchestrating the sham impeachment and having Republicans threatening the speakership of Kevin McCarthy, aka the Cowardly Lion. Actually, that's pretty insulting to the Cowardly Lion. He at least had balls and a spine. Republicans were so thirsty to announce their impeachment inquiry that they did it the day after 9/11. This whole thing is a complete farce, and Republicans should be mocked at every turn.
Ask you about this news that Speaker McCarthy has formally launched an impeachment, or has said he's going to.
Oh my God, really? Oh my gosh, it's devastating. Ooh, don't do it. Please don't do it.
And another idiotic 9/11 talking point for Republicans is the Taliban.
And as far as the Taliban being back in control now, what a slap in the face to Pete, to everyone who served with our weapons.
No, see, the real slap in the face to everyone who served was in 2019 when Trump tried to organize a secret meeting with the Taliban at Camp David. Let me say it again for MAGA in the back. Donald Trump wanted to host the Taliban on U.S. soil. The fact that Republicans are okay with that is disgusting. And then, of course, Trump's former press secretary, Kayleigh Milquetoast McEnany, had something to say. Those are Trump's exact words, even if he misspelled milquetoast. Here's the truth. The Trump administration negotiated a weak deal with the Taliban to withdraw from Afghanistan. It ended up being so chaotic that Trump officials have tried to act like revisionists and back away from the deal that they were a part of. So it actually makes sense why Milquetoast is trying to spin a new tale and blame it all on Biden.
My boss, former President Trump, made it a point each and every year to honor these families on September 11th.
Sorry, but that is
incorrect.
All we have to do is look back at the 20th anniversary of 9/11 in 2021. Since Donald Trump couldn't make 9/11 about himself, he ended up skipping any memorial or attack site, and instead, he went to an NYPD station to talk about himself because, well, of course he did.
I appreciated during the election, the New York City police endorsed Trump. You know that, right? First time they've ever endorsed a candidate. They told me, first time, maybe they do it every time, I don't know, but they told me, first time they've ever endorsed a candidate for president, and it's a great honor.
And who could forget on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, Trump giving a speech to the religious cult the Moonies or commentating a boxing match with his son Don Jr. If it's not clear already, Donald Trump will do anything for money, like cover for Saudi Arabia's role in the 9/11 attacks so he could get paid millions to host the Saudi-backed Live Golf tournament.
You're so closely associated with the city of New York. Yeah. You, of all people, understand the passion surrounding 9/11. What do you say to those family members who protested earlier this week and will be doing so again on Friday?
Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have, as to the maniacs that did that horrible thing to our city, to our country, to the world. So nobody's really been there, but I can tell you that there are a lot of really great people that are out here today, and we're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to celebrate.
And understandably so, 9/11 families were not happy with Trump.
And if we can't get a golfer to at least look us in the eye and tell us that they're doing it for the money and they don't give a shit about the atrocities of Saudi Arabia, they're cowards. Our loved ones are the heroes. The golfers and the former president are cowards.
So this year, Trump posted his 9/11 memorial speech, if you can even call it that.
No one who lived through the horror of the September 11th terrorist attacks can ever forget the agony and the anguish of that terrible day. It was a terrible day. The images of dark plumes of smoke billowing over lower Manhattan, the Pentagon, and a field of Pennsylvania. Such a beautiful field.
What is wrong with this guy? Actually, don't answer that.
Excuse me, very rude. 9/11 was a very tragic day, but it happened on a great, elegant, magnificent, and beautiful field.
Here are the facts. Trump has been lying about 9/11 since 9/11. Like when Trump lied about losing hundreds of friends.
I lost hundreds of friends. The World Trade Center came down.
Trump not only lied about attending the funerals of 9/11 victims, but he also lied about helping clear the rubble with first responders at Ground Zero.
Everyone who helped clear the rubble, and I was there, and I watched, and I helped a little bit.
Donald Trump, aka Captain Bone Spurs, dodged the draft 5 times for the Vietnam War. You really think this coward would risk his life to save other people? Trump also lied about sending hundreds of workers to help at Ground Zero.
I have hundreds of men inside working right now, and we're bringing down another 125 in a little while, and they've never done work like this before. And they're hardworking people, but they've never seen anything like it, and they've never done work like this before. It's terrible.
And not only that, but Trump also lied about seeing Muslims cheering after the attacks, just like he lied about seeing people jump from the Twin Towers while he was in his building 4 miles away.
Now, Trump is saying he watched from his Manhattan apartment as people jumped from the Twin Towers on 9/11.
I have a window in my apartment that specifically was aimed at the World Trade Center because of the beauty of the whole downtown Manhattan. And I watched as people jumped, and I watched the second plane come in.
While people were seen jumping from the towers that day, Trump's apartment in Midtown is roughly 4 miles from where the World Trade Center's towers stood.
Many people jumped. And I witnessed it. I watched that.
Trump is nothing but a narcissist and a liar who has constantly tried to make the tragedy of 9/11 all about him and his dumb buildings. But most importantly, Donald Trump is a thief who stole millions of dollars from the 9/11 First Responders Fund. This is who the GOP wants as their president, a guy who has lost the popular vote twice, was impeached twice, has now been indicted 4 times, is looking at 7 civil and criminal cases over the next year, and steals from 9/11 victims. The GOP is disgusting. They not only cover for Trump's lies about 9/11, but they also spread their own. Like George Santos lying about how 9/11 claimed his mother's life. She wasn't even in New York City at the time, let alone the United States. She was in Brazil. And then there's also Vivek the Fake Ramaswamy spreading the conspiracy theory that federal agents were involved in the 9/11 terrorist attacks, a claim he tried to blame Vanity Fair for and was immediately fact-checked when they released the audio of their interview. And if you're like Rudy Giuliani, you'll leave the 9/11 memorial early because Vice President Harris was in attendance.
And I can't stand Harris. And I heard her giggle. And Bernie and I looked at each other and I said, we got to get out of here. I can't stand at this sacred ground. To my right was not a single person I ever saw on September 11th.
Look, Rudy Giuliani might say that he didn't recognize anyone, but in his defense, it was early morning, so that abusive alcoholic was probably already 3 sheets to the wind. Giuliani's early departure was incredibly disrespectful to the 9/11 families, just like Trump has been since 2001. This is sadly how the GOP commemorates 9/11, with lies, conspiracies, and complete apathy for the victims and families on one of the worst days in American history. A day that Republicans love to say, always remember, never forget. Well, guess what? We will never forget what Republicans have done, and one of the best ways to show them that is by exercising your First Amendment right and saying,
go yourself.
And if you don't want to say it, don't worry. You can always flip them off like I did to Donald Trump. Well, that's all for me today. Thanks so much for watching, and feel free to connect with me at I am Gabe Sanchez. But before I go, if you liked what you saw and want to support the show, make sure to subscribe at patreon.com/IamGabeSanchez. So until next episode, I'm Gabe Sanchez, and this has been What Was That?